We're proud to announce that today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Alpha Dental. Alpha Dental brings a new level of affordability and flexibility where traditional benefits fall short, with a low-cost bundle of healthcare discounts available to all employees and contractors. This episode is a special encore presentation of Work Trends. Welcome to the Work Trends podcast, brought to you by Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview smart people reimagining the world of work. Be sure to stay current with all of our interesting podcasts by visiting our page at Talent Culture Work Trends on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And of course, you can listen at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast, sponsored today by Dell Technologies. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro, and today we are discussing empathetic leadership and why it's the brand of leadership that's needed in today's workplace. Employees are looking for leaders who understand them and their needs. Leaders see things from their perspective. This is what we call empathetic leadership. Empathetic leaders are able to create a space where employees feel heard, valued, understood. And when employees feel like this, guess what? They're more engaged, productive, and committed to their work. So today, we are joined by Jen Saavedra, the Chief Human Resources Officer at Dell Technologies. As Dell Technologies' Chief Human Resources Officer, Jen leads the company's global human resources and facilities function and accelerates the performance and growth of the company through culture and, guess what, people. She received her doctoral degree in industrial and organizational behavior from Tulane University. Her passion is understanding the psychology of human behavior and harnessing this knowledge along with analytical insights to help people, teams, and organizations be their best. Jen joined Dell Technologies in 2005 and has held HR leadership roles in many disciplines, including talent development and culture, business partnerships, strategy, learning, and development. She has enjoyed serving on the executive board for many of their company's employee resource groups and is currently the executive sponsor for the Black Networking Alliance. So happy to discuss today's topic with you, Jen. Welcome.
Thanks, Megan. I am so happy to be here. This is going to be a fun conversation.
All right. Well, let's dive right into it then. Let's start with the overarching data from the breakthrough study. In this study, the focus was on the do from anywhere world we live in and work in today, and the challenges we all deal with when it comes to disruption and change. What does the future of work and the employee experience look like?
Well, man, everything is so different, right? In the last 2 years, think about not just the world of work, but in our personal lives as well. We accelerated digital transformation. We disrupted our work and personal routines. I never thought that I was going to drive up and do curbside groceries, or same with picking up a new pair of running shoes, drive up to the curb. So I think all of these assumptions and routines that we've had have really been disrupted. And there's been some really great learnings throughout that. When it comes to work, absolutely the same. How we define work has changed. Commute times have been reimagined. We've heard this expression of equal glass when we're on a video where everybody can be seen and have an equal kind of square of glass. It's leveled the playing field. So I think that the future will look very different. We're moving into that future. And like I said, we are starting to see a lot of the positives, and we're also starting to learn as we move through that. One of the things at Dell Technologies that we're really focused on is defining work as an outcome, not as a specific time and place. We know that employees value freedom and flexibility, and it's really about helping everybody make an impact. Everybody wants to make a difference, know that their work is contributing to the strategy of the company, to customers, to the world, and also maintaining those connections. And so that we can feel a part of something bigger than ourselves. And we know no one approach fits all. Not every work is exactly the same, has the same requirements. Not every individual has has the same way they work or the same needs. And we have a history of doing this. So while everybody went remote over a weekend, at Dell, we've been doing this for over 10 years. And we wanted to ask, now that we're kind of emerging out of this pandemic, how do you think we're doing? So we asked our team members, there's so many headlines out there of people trying to figure out, what's the future? What does hybrid look like? So we asked our team members, how do you think we're doing in this world of hybrid? And 86% of our team members said they feel we're leading the way. 81% feel great about our hybrid work. And each and every year, the number one thing they say differentiates us is this idea of flexibility. So I don't think our employees are necessarily that different in saying that flexibility matters, choice matters. We want to do great work and remain connected. And I'm really optimistic as we continue to head into the future. I think this is a great opportunity. It's a great equalizer. We have learned a lot to be inclusive, make things more accessible to people, and keeping an eye on the partnership between human resources, the business needs, our team members at the center, facilities, and IT. I think these are things that give us a lot of hope and a lot of promise.
So given the level of disruption we are all working through, and I mean, as you said, it's not just one brand or one type of company. We're all going through something. What does the data show us as what's imminent in the future of work, or what's next?
Sure. Well, in the breakthrough study, 63% of people say they really want their leaders to better support different work patterns, tools, infrastructure, clarity on what hybrid means in the future. Everybody wants to be successful. They want to thrive, and they just need to know that their leaders and their company are going to be there to support them. I think there's so much that we don't necessarily know. And I think that agility is going to be key as we continue to move forward. What we know today, we will continue to build on and learn. And at Dell, again, we asked our team members, how is it? Can your team adapt to others' work preferences, whether it's location, hours you're working, mediums of communication? 91% of our team members are telling us today their teams are making it easy to adapt to these other preferences. And I think it's really important in this world to lead with facts and data and science, listen and remain agile. I think we're in a very dynamic time, and we've got to stay open and not just, dig in and say, okay, this is the way it's going to be from here on out. I think that as other companies are thinking about building their strategy, I do think it's really important to look at the business needs. How does the work need to get done, as well as personal choice? I think you need to assess the roles. Some roles need to be done in certain locations or co-located, or aspects of the roles, and then support your team members in understanding what works best for them.
What about HR? What is particularly interesting from this point of view?
There's lots of stuff. It's all interesting if you're in the...
You got to pick a few.
I'll pick a few. So one of the areas that comes up a lot is this idea of mental health and well-being. And that really was pronounced over the last couple of years. And in the study, the breakthrough study that we did, 58% said they're not experiencing better work-life balance. So while we did erase commute times and some travel, there are more meetings than ever, right? And the boundaries get blurred between work and life. 41% are wrestling with burnout, and only 37% said they're experiencing mentally stimulating work. That can make for really, really long, hard days. And I think this idea of balance and mental well-being and connection are really important. Those are keys to our people philosophy. We have the ABCD in our people philosophy. The A is achievement, B stands for balance, C stands for connection, and D is diversity and inclusion. And what we've been hearing as we continue to listen to our team members is on that connection piece, it's less about those strong day-to-day connections you have with your immediate team. Those continue to happen, or those relationships that you've had, those deep relationships for years. It's more about those broad network relationships. And if you look at some of the research out there, HBR just published something not too long ago that said over the last 2 years, our networks have shrunk by 16%. So how do we help as companies help broker those broader connections, whether it's across a geography or a site or a broader organization, and have to be willing to experiment and try something. Some things will work great, and others will say, maybe we won't do that one again.
Let's talk a little bit about skills. What is the gap here, and how are you addressing this at Dell? And most importantly, what advice can you offer to other brands or people looking for help?
Sure. I think that in terms of skills, we've got to all, in this really changing environment, we've got to all remain curious, and we all have to continue to want to learn new skills. And skills can happen in a lot of different ways. Formal training is a great way to offer things to people, but it's also about creating opportunities for people to learn on the job. Take on new projects within the company, take on new roles, move laterally, learn new things, help people really understand where is the world of work going and how do you help them develop those skills that will be critical to lead into the future. So those are, I think, some of the things we have to think about. Digital skills, as we all know, are continuing to increase in importance and value, and helping people navigate into that future and feel really confident that they have the skills they need to be relevant and successful and contribute.
Some of the stats I found particularly interesting were that 67% believe their organization underestimates the people requirements when planning transformation programs. And with that, more than 1 in 3 employees claim their leaders treat staff as dispensable. The call to action is to lead with more empathy. How can HR practitioners support our leaders on this front?
Well, I think empathy is key. Everything starts based on relationship and trust. And empathy, we have seen how important that is over the last several years. It's going to continue to be even more important. You're not going to be your best and do your best work if you don't feel that somebody understands who you are, what you're navigating, and so that you can contribute in your best way. So this, to me, is ultimately about relationships and inclusion and understanding, taking the time to understand others' perspectives. Nobody wants to feel like they're just a worker and that their only value is to contribute work. They want to be human beings. Who doesn't, right? And in the breakthrough study, 83% said that leaders overlook different perspectives and viewpoints. And 59% still feel that a lot of the compensation and talent decisions that are happening in their company aren't fair. It's really hard to be inspired and give your best work if that's how you're feeling. It's a concern. And I think this idea of making sure that you have, for us, we have a culture code. We work very hard to make sure that's not words on paper, that it's actually lived and embedded in everything we do. We ask our team members, how are we doing? We're being told 94% say behavior is consistent with the culture code. That's really important. We need to have an inclusive culture. We ask about how we're doing there. We need to make sure that our team members' voice counts and that everybody has visibility to opportunities and feels that there's someone advocating for them. And what we're finding is you need to do that in any environment, and you need to do that for everybody. So as my advice on this, empathy, absolutely. Trust underlies everything, and trust happens when you build that empathetic relationship. Show you care about your employees as human beings and as people, and help give clarity on how the work that the employee is doing matters to the company, that matters to the world and the community, and that you're leading with purpose.
So how can businesses who are saying, you know what, Jen, you're right. How can we do this better? How can they foster a culture of collaboration, innovation? What should they do next if they're not doing it?
Well, I don't think these are, you're not going to be 100% right all the time, but I think this is a journey. I think recognizing that everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So show them that, give them the opportunity to contribute beyond just the work at hand. Make sure that everybody's aligned on that higher purpose or that higher cause, on serving customers, improving the world, not fighting amongst themselves within a company. And ultimately, I think you have to role model from the top. So you need to show collaboration. You need to show that we're better together. You need to reach out to others in other parts of the organization. You need to encourage challenging the status quo and encourage voice and other ways of thinking. And I think all of these things start to shift that culture and mindset, leading from the top, that this is a culture that welcomes new and different ideas and that supports and expects collaboration to best serve the customers and community and company.
And the key word there is expects. If you're out there listening in the Work Trends community, it is no longer just a nice to have, it's a must. And I hope you're there listening and thinking about action steps, because that's what this is about. So I'm curious, Jen, what one or two things did you personally find the most interesting or revealing in the breakthrough study?
Well, Megan, I think we've talked through a lot of the really interesting findings. One of the things that we didn't spend much time talking about is this idea of automation. And more work is getting automated. And a lot of times people think about automation and say, okay, well, that's just to drive better productivity or better efficiency. Yes, it does. And that's an angle. But I think it's also about inspiration and role elevation and providing that stimulating work, right? We talked about the statistic earlier about meaningful work and how people really want to do meaningful work. And so there may be some, as we talked about, this need to kind of upskill or reskill as part of that. But I think this is such an exciting opportunity. 69% of people in the breakthrough study said they want to learn new skills and technology. And using automation in a really smart way alongside the incredible capabilities that are uniquely human will drive better and more consistent decisions for us and help mitigate human error. 77% of the people in the breakthrough study said they look forward to mitigating human error. So I think this is an incredible opportunity as we look at the future of work to use automation to drive greater impact, greater consistent decisions, mitigate human error, and free up some of those that time that allows us to be our unique human selves with creativity and collaboration, all those things that you mentioned.
Well, and you know what? We can have both. That's the good news, Jen. I have to say, it has been amazing having you here with us. I know you're a very busy person, so I want to thank you for stopping by and sharing your sage.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I love this topic. We could spend hours on it, and I have a lot to learn as well. But so far, it's been really, really great just to learn how we can really thrive in the future.
Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Just a reminder that you can hear all the Work Trends podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on the podcast page at talentculture.com. Be sure to subscribe so you can listen on the go and stay up to date on all the latest news you want to hear. I look forward to catching up with you next time. I hope today's information made you wiser, happier, more informed, and most importantly, thinking of how you can use it to improve the quality of your life.